Good Thursday morning, everyone. Welcome to the mailbag edition of the Volquest.com podcast, brought to you by Blue Water Climate Control. Check them out online at bluewaterclimatecontrol.com, and they're on Twitter at blueh20_climate. Glad to have you along with us. Brent Hubbs, Austin Price, and Rob Lewis. Guys, let's just jump right into the questions. We got plenty of them in this mailbag edition. First one is from Vol since 1996. Do you question the effort of this team has given for the last 6 quarters? Seems like we were a better unit as an offensive line last year compared to this year. Would you guys agree with that? I just can't figure out, with all the meat we have on the line, why we can't impose our will and run it like the drive we had against Kentucky before the half ended.
Well, I do think they've been a bit banged up. Now, is that an excuse? No, but at the same time, I think that's something you at least have to acknowledge. Jerome Carvin, the guy you started the year with at right guard, has been out with turf toe. They've had to bounce Cade around, and you've not got great play out of your tackles. So, I guess in theory, they have been a little bit, went the other direction than they have as far as, from a year ago.
Well, I thought they were really good in the second half against South Carolina and against Missouri.
I think Kay hit the nail on the head, Rob. They've just been inconsistent.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll go to the effort question. I don't question the effort at Georgia. I think they just got overwhelmed in the second half. But I thought the second half at Kentucky, I think it's very fair to question the effort that you saw there.
Yeah, and I think you question that with the entire team, not just the offensive line there. With the sacks, I do think that there's been times they've just been overwhelmed and just been beaten. Darnell Wright was beaten clearly on one sack in the Kentucky game. I think there's been times that they've given up sacks because their running back protection and tight end protection hasn't been good enough. And there's probably been a couple of sacks where the quarterbacks held the football too long as well. So I think that's all there. I thought they could have run it more in the Kentucky game, and imposed their will. But my thing I don't understand, as we get ready to move on to the next question here, is I don't understand how you drive the length of the field against Kentucky, imposing your will. You run it 7 or 8 times. You got a rhythm going, and then the next time you get the football, it's not the same offensive line that you have on the field.
I've been saying it.
I don't get that at all.
Me neither.
I would take Spraggins and start him at right guard, and then I would play Cade at one of the tackle spots. If Wanye's not healthy and can't go and is not in a mental place to play very well, then I put Cade at left tackle and Darnell at right, or I play Cade at right tackle and Wanye Morris at left tackle. Whichever the other best option is at tackle to go with Cade, I'd play Cade at tackle this week, and then I would play Spraggins at right guard if Carvin can't go. I
agree. I think Carvin's close, but I think it really behooves, this staff to let him rest and get ready for Arkansas, get ready for those last 5. Same thing with a guy like Jameer Johnson. I think Jameer Johnson is getting better. Probably could play if they had to have him on Saturday, but I don't think that he will play. I think the staff would really like to get him back for Arkansas. I don't think Riley Locklear is going to play the rest of this year. He's kind of been banged up with a labrum and a foot, and so I think that they may end up shutting him down in the next week or two, and then I do think that there's those combinations you're speaking of are the ones that make the most sense.
And look, if you had any other issues, I'd put K'Ron Calvert on the field and see what happens. He's played in the SEC before. I don't know why he hadn't played the first couple of weeks. He played a little bit, just a couple of snaps in the Kentucky game, but put him back out there. That's a guy who has shown he's physical enough to play in the Southeastern Conference at times. Has he been as consistent as he needs to be? I'm sure he's not. But from a physical standpoint, he's shown he can play. All right, let's go to iHeart Balls. Is Banks a difference maker at linebacker? If not, then why not move him back to running back since Jeremy allegedly wants a bigger back? Also, CBS's announcer stated that JG was tipping the snap count against Georgia with his hands. If true, how did someone on our staff not catch that? Rob, did they say something on the broadcast about him tipping his hands?
I honestly don't remember that.
Yeah, I didn't talk about. I didn't hear that, and I didn't hear that on a replay.
I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I do not recall seeing that. And I don't think Banks is a difference maker at linebacker, but I don't think they have enough depth to move him. Do you guys?
No, Not if he's healthy. I mean, he's a starting inside linebacker.
I mean, I think he's a good player, but is he a difference maker? He is for this team, I would guess, since they have 3 guys that have played there.
Yeah, I don't think you move Banks personally. First of all, he's got to get healthy. I'm not sure he's going to be healthy enough to play. I know he's done more this week, but I'm not sure he's going to be ready to go this week. He may get shut down. I think the bigger back question is 2 weeks from now, where's D Beckwith? Is that a possibility of being that guy there? Where are they going to play D Beckwith? I think athletically they believe he can play and help them when he's healthy. The question is, where's that going to be? We'll see. He's not ready this week, but we'll see maybe in a couple of weeks where he might be able to help this team. And could he be a bigger back for them in the offensive backfield? All right, next question. All the differences between Pruitt and Brumbaugh, how do these not come up in interviews, background checks, talking to coaches he's worked with before, et cetera, et cetera? He had to talk to a coach he worked with. You had to walk down the hall, Austin, and talk to Derek Hansley. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Tennessee should have known exactly what they were getting with Jimmy Brumbaugh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, but how coaches coach now versus how they coached 5 years ago can
That's
change.
fair point.
But the point is Coach Pruitt would have seen this a lot more firsthand in the spring, but they didn't have spring ball, and then it kind of got into fall camp, and I think that there were multiple conversations that were had of hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is not what you're doing that I wish we could change, and things just never got any better. And there's philosophical differences. It's again, as we talked about the other night, it's more in just how we went about practice. I mean, like Coach Pruitt is very much one that I know he got rid of or didn't renew Coach Rocker, but you could always you can always count on Rocker just totally going in on a kid dry, out there on the practice field. I'm not sure Jimmy Brumbaugh ever did that at all. And then, like I said, he had issues with the recruiting trail and other stuff.
Well, but the thing and the point the guy makes, I think, is a fair point, Rob. I mean, even if you'd had him in spring practice and he'd been out there and you worked him for 15 days and you go, hey, this is not a good fit, it's going to cost you money to get rid of him. So why didn't you figure those things out and see, see what his coaching style and your conversations with him and in talking to people met what you were looking for, so you wouldn't put yourself in a situation where it was an $850,000 mistake.
Yeah, I mean, don't you think? I mean, he just trusted Ansley on this one. I mean, just leaned on him and was disappointed with what he got.
That's kind of the vibe I feel. Man, I don't know that, but I would tend to agree with you that way.
I think he's got a lot of respect for Derek.
Yeah, and so I think and Austin I think you make a great point. How you coached 5 years ago compared to how you coach now can very much be different. I don't think there's any
you
doubt
evolve.
about that.
I mean, look at Rick Barnes. Like,
Sure.
I mean, he's self-proclaimed the guy that used to run so hot when he was younger, and now is much more laid back.
Yeah, but I do think instead of calling around and asking a bunch of people opinions, I think he went down the hall and talked to Derek Ansley, who had worked with him extensively, and that would be the opinion you would value the most because he was coming to work on that staff with him, and Derek had worked with him multiple years. All right, to Vols 1024, are you surprised at Chaney's lack of run game creativity? With an offensive line like ours, you would think he would maximize it by limiting the quarterback some, but we've not seen any wildcat, no direct snaps, no Jimmy Holiday package, no crouch short yardage. Seems like Grand from UK has mastered how to run the ball with a bad quarterback. Well, he's run the ball with a running back playing quarterback. Now, Terry Wilson's a little better. He throws the ball better than they did a year ago, but they found a way to run the football out of the quarterback position, which I think has been their priority. Now they're trying to grow a little bit with Wilson, but I think that's been a priority for them, is to be able to run the ball from the quarterback spot, which is not what Tennessee's priority is. My thing on this one, and I'll let you guys comment on this, from a creativity standpoint, I'm surprised that they pulled tackles, in the Missouri game, and they did some different things in the Missouri game with some wrinkles, second half against South Carolina, but we haven't seen those wrinkles the last couple of weeks. That's where I'm at with the creativity, much more than personnel creativity. I'm surprised you haven't seen some schematic creativity in the run game.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I'm just surprised it's not been more of an emphasis when you look at what you have in Eric Gray and Chandler as opposed to what you have at wideout. I mean, and an offensive line that we think is pretty good. I mean, it certainly hasn't looked like it, at times. But to me, I mean, your most proven performers are at tailback. I mean, Josh Palmer's done some nice things, but Eric Gray, I think is the best playmaker, most consistent guy on offense.
I'm surprised they've not lined Gray up, Rob, and used him the way they used Bayless Jones for those little pop passes, because it just seems like that would fit right into his kind of wheelhouse.
And I also think not having Austin Pope really hurts him.
Yeah, I think it hurts him in the run game. I don't disagree with that. But yeah, I mean, I think they need more wrinkles. I mean, and they're going to have to find some wrinkles down the stretch of the season. As for the short yardage stuff, they've been a good short yardage team. So I don't know that you need Crouch in there for your short yardage stuff, because they've converted fourth downs. They've been pretty good on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. I don't think that's been a huge issue as it was a year ago where they couldn't convert those downs. They've been able to move the sticks pretty good in short yardage situations this year compared to previous years. All right, Vol Rocker wants to know, knowing Friend and Pruitt are extremely close, do you think Pruitt would ever make a change there? I'll say this: when you take that position as the head coach and you hire friends, people you're close to, you have to do it with the understanding that someday you might have to make a change. If you're going to be successful in a leadership position, you have to understand that that's always a possibility. But am I saying he would or he wouldn't? I don't know. What I'm saying is, when you take that job and you hire your buddies, okay, you have to understand that sometimes you might have to make a move and let a guy go.
I do think he would. Now, do I think he would 2 years ago? I don't think he would then. Would I think he would now? I think potentially, depending on how the rest of the season plays out. You have to remember now, this is a guy that demoted a good friend in Kevin Scherer after the first year, and are those two as close as he and Will? No, but they were still pretty close. And, had grown up through the ranks, but coaching high school ball at Alabama, and then coaching at Alabama, and then coaching at Georgia. And he demoted him. And then I'm not sure he would have been back had he not got a job with the New York Giants anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's off the table that Coach Pruitt wouldn't move on from Coach Friend if the situation presented itself.
And, remember who he's, his biggest mentor, Nick Saban, is. I mean, who he's learned the most from and, gives all kinds of credit to. That guy would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no question. All right, Pine Mountain Vol wants to know, Austin, seemed like Swain caught you off guard this week when he asked you about the possibility of Ty Simpson reclassifying. Could you elaborate a little more on if that's a possibility now that you've had a chance to think about it? And then, Rob, for you, we see reclassifying a lot more in basketball. Do you think it would work in football? Austin, we'll start with you on the Ty Simpson reclassification.
Well, you've seen the quarterbacks do that. I mean, JT Daniels did it. Do I think that it's went through the minds of people on campus and or the Ty Simpson family? Sure, I do. Do I think it would happen? No, I don't think Jason wants to set Ty up to take a hit early in his college career. That's the best thing going for Ty is his dad's a college coach. He understands a lot of the potential roadblocks that could happen as a football player. So I don't think that would happen. Would I 100% rule it out? No, but I just think that's probably far-fetched.
Rob, why do you think the basketball reclassification has become such a thing? Is it just get to a pro contract quicker?
That's definitely part of it for the the big timers. But I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but in so many of those cases, it's guys getting back into the class they should have been in to begin with because of their age.
Oh, okay.
That's not every case, but that is quite a few of them. And I just think the physicality, the development that takes place from being a 17-year-old to an 18-year-old, I mean, I think that's a roadblock in football.
Yeah, but certainly at a lot of positions. Quarterback, we have seen some of that, but for linemen, linebackers, there's a big difference in your body that last year of high school development for sure. Smokey Go Vols. McDonald and Eason have been mentioned in recent weeks regarding development and buzz. How is French coming along? AP, you want to take that one?
He's doing okay. I mean, I don't, outside of maybe potentially helping on special teams, I don't see him contributing a whole lot this year. Easton, I think you'll see him play more. And I'm going to go ahead and call my shot right now. I think Tamarion McDonald, he played a little bit at the end of last game. I think he plays a lot more this week.
More.
What's the deal with his?
Not just special teams, right?
Correct.
How do you go from being a guy that was maybe going to blue shirt because of off seasons? I mean, is he just that far ahead in his rehab?
Yeah.
What do you think?
All the way back, baby.
That's crazy because the thought was that it was going to be mid to late November before he would be even remotely close to doing anything.
The days of kids missing a whole season with a hangnail are gone. They're back.
He had more than a hangnail. Guy had reconstructed shoulder or some kind of shoulder. Maybe the shoulder wasn't as bad.
I just know a few years ago, a kid had a concussion and he stayed in a dark room for 6 weeks.
But sometimes that happens around the place.
Around
the country. All right, 10-Ken, 1985. If you're named head coach tomorrow, what's your first 2 moves? All right, I'm going to talk in hypotheticals here because I know what he's asking, and what he's asking is who should be fired.
Be careful, Hubs, because this will end up on Twitter in a heartbeat.
Oh, I know, but I'm going to say if I were named a head coach at a college somewhere, okay, the first thing I would do is I would take less money in my first deal, okay, and take more money, have more money in my staff, and then my whole thing would be on getting my top priorities at coordinator, whoever they might be. If it meant I took less money to get those guys, whatever it took to get my 2 coordinators that I 100% believed in, that I had researched, that I knew, that I trusted, all those things.
So Sam
that
Pittman
would be my first 2 moves. I think Sam Pittman's done it right. Now, long term, will it work at Arkansas? Can they recruit enough? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but I do like what Sam Pittman has done with his 2 coordinators. I totally do.
He got fortunate that Missouri moved on from Barry Odom.
Yep,
and he fell into that one, and then he hired a young, innovative mind in Kendall Briles.
And I don't know how long he can hold on to Barry Odom. Barry Odom may get another head job somewhere,
or Kendall Briles, who's bound to move up.
Right, but I think that's the thing that you have to do is you have to get those 2 hires right, okay, and then your next move would be find a quarterback, because I think those 3 components are what determines how quick you rise and how quick your program takes off. At least that's my opinion.
Rob, go ahead and give us your 2.
My first one would be to move to a bigger house with the salary. And I mean, I agree with everybody. I mean, Tennessee specific is what I guess he's asking. I mean, I don't want to get into. I mean, I don't know enough to say that anybody in this staff needs to be relieved at all. But I mean, as I talked earlier, I would, given what you have at quarterback and given what you have at receiver and what you had at offensive line, I would the run game would have been a huge emphasis for me. And I just think Chaney, and we've seen it before, just is in love with throwing the ball down the field.
All right, Steven, VFL, I know it's way too early to say, but hey, just for fun, is next year's starting quarterback on the roster, or is it more likely to be Salter or a transfer? I don't know. Harrison Bailey's played 4 snaps.
And
4 snaps.
As pointed out by Gustavo in the Zoom call, he's completed 25% of his passes.
He has, in 4 snaps. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have any idea what Harrison Bailey's going to look like a year from now, 6 months from now. I don't know what he's going to look like a month from now in terms of his development. So
I'd throw out that he's on the roster. I don't think they start a true freshman. I think it's.
Well, I'll say this with the potential one-time transfer thing coming, that's where I think the waters get muddied a little bit. And Brent, you were on ball calls when asked about the potential Harrison Bailey starting this week. What did Jeremy say? He said he don't think it's fair to put those kind of expectations on a kid, and then went back to Mac Wilson, who was, not ready as a freshman when he was the scout team quarterback at Alabama.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, next year, I have no idea what any of these. I don't know who's here. I don't know what these guys look like a year from now. So I don't have much answer for your hypothetical, let's just for fun question, way too early question. All right, LF Vol, right before the half, 1st and goal, Georgia targeted true freshman 3 straight times for the score. We pitched playing a freshman. Why can't we get freshmen on the field at wide receiver since the vets lack speed and aren't getting separation against solid DBs? Same for the DBs, Slaughter and Keyshawn Lawrence. Is this the head coach or position coach's decision on those guys?
It's the same reason that Mark Levine started over Jamal Lewis. It's all about knowing your assignment and feeling like the coaches can trust you. I do think that you're bound to see more young kids, though. I think that's been, something that's been discussed this week of, play the most talented guys in certain positions, not all across the board, but play the most talented guys because, they may bust and give up a play, but they're going to make some plays too.
I'd like to hear Hubbard talk a little more about the wide receivers.
I think I've made my feelings known on that one pretty good. And if you're not sure, watch the Rocky Top Roundtable a little bit later on this afternoon. I'll make my feelings known on it again as well. Play them. UT Vol 29. How many recruits currently committed are asked to look elsewhere, and who are some of the more unknown recruits we're involved with that may be underrated? McGee keeps getting. Underrated AP. He keeps getting interest from everybody else, right? That's committed.
We have him underrated. Others don't.
Right.
They have him rated higher. What was the first question?
Who's going to get processed? How many recruits currently committed are asked to look elsewhere?
Look, I've always said when asked about these type of things, I never like to say a kid's going to get processed because I don't think that that's fair to the kid on the front end, because sometimes there's a kids that maybe you think or even you've heard is likely to get processed, and then things change. So it doesn't behoove us to say that. I think that's unfair to those kids. But the general's quarters is full of intelligent people that follow recruiting that can probably pinpoint it out.
There's definitely going to be 2 or 3, I would say, minimum.
Well, yeah, there's bound to be a couple of guys that don't end up in this class. That's 100% correct.
And here's the thing, too. What does this class look like if Tennessee don't get things turned around?
That's right. Terrence Lewis, even on Wednesday, is tweeting all orange emojis. But if the Vols don't pick it up and they continue to lose, how much does that affect him?
Yeah, I just think you just never know what that's going to look like down the stretch here. All right, Charlie Work wants to know, given the lack of talent at the quarterback position, do you think Pruitt will finally be able to recruit a top transfer quarterback this offseason? We just mentioned about transfers. Look, if the one-time transfer waiver goes through, the transfer market's going to be wide open at all positions, including quarterbacks. Everybody's going to be in the market for everybody. Everybody's going to spend time recruiting other people's players. That's why some people don't like the one-time transfer rule, but it's going to come. That's why coaches are going to hold scholarships and not sign 25 guys in those preparations and anticipation of that happening. All right, Volunteered 87's back with another question. Here we go, AP. This has got you written all over it here. I realize this is likely nothing more than a shot in the dark, but coming out of last weekend, AP, you've got to pick one. Or you can say no thanks. Ty Simpson sees the situation as a program with all or at least most of the pieces except him. Once he gets to Knoxville, they're competing for conference championships. Ty Simpson sees the situation as a program that's not likely going to compete for conference championships with the current roster and staff. And as a bonus question, he wants to know, best golfer out of all the UT coaches since you've been covering the Vols. Only restriction is you cannot say a golf coach.
To answer your question, I think that Ty sees Tennessee with a lot of key pieces, on the current roster. So I think option A, then I'm correct. As far as Coach Fulmer liked to play golf and still likes to play golf. He's not very good at golf.
Bird.
Lane, he's not a burn. I'm not even good at golf anymore. I don't play enough. And then I'm always working for Hubs.
You're a golf snob and will only play at elite golf courses is the only reason why. But go ahead, we're running out of time.
Amen to that. Lane didn't play. Butch, I saw Butch pick up a club one time, and oh man, I can't even describe it. I never got to play with Dooley, and then Jeremy has potential if he played more. Jay Graham, also not a good golfer.
What about Chief?
Chief, having played with Chief, I watched Chief put one in the middle of 75 down at Avalon on hole 7, par 5. He went down and dropped it, which again he should have re-teed because it was out of bounds. He dropped it where it went in, knocked the 3-wood to like 4 feet, tapped it in, and goes eagle. Hey, with that said, he knocked a 3-wood from 200 something yards to 4 feet and made the putt. So,
I just want to throw in on the Ty Simpson thing. As being a member of that 22 class, that loaded in-state class, I think that could be a factor as well because he knows the talent that's there and would be coming in with him if Tennessee can keep, put a fence around the state.
Yes.
All right, Huckham, we got a couple more we're going to get to right quick here. When the season started, we thought we'd close the gap against the SEC big boys. We even thought that after 2 games. How did everything go so wrong so fast? Awful quarterback play, bad O-line play, terrible secondary play. Yes. We have talent. It just does not make sense. Do you have a culture problem? I think you have a turnover problem. And I think the turnovers when you turn it over 7 times in 4 quarters, you're not going to beat over the span of 2 games. You're not going to beat people. And I think it's a pretty simple correlation. I'm not saying they would have beaten Georgia had they not turned the football over, but that would have been an interesting game in the 4th quarter if they don't turn it over 3 times in the 3rd quarter. And the Kentucky game, Coach Pruitt's right. They gave up 17 points in the first half on 2 first downs.
It's about playing 4 quarters too, Brent. At the end of the,
Yes.
When you look up and with a minute to go in the 3rd and it's 23-21 in Athens. A year ago, they're, half a football away from having it a 1-score game in Tuscaloosa in the 4th quarter. And both times, things go awry, they don't finish, and it ends up being a 22 or 24 point ball game. So
quarterback.
There you go. You said it.
Yeah, that's right. As I said earlier, when somebody asked what's the top 2 priorities, find your coordinators and find a quarterback.
And find a quarterback that the kids believe in. Not that they don't like JG. Okay, I think they, to a man, like JG the kid, but I'm not sure there's a lot of belief when he rolls out there that, okay, yeah, we're going right down the field.
Yeah. All right. What possibly can be the incentive to going back to number 2 this season at quarterback? It would seem at this point there's no downside to using the remaining 6 games this season to identify the best option for the quarterback among Bailey, Stroud, and Brian Maurer. The final record this season makes a little difference. Even if Tennessee goes 2-8, Jeremy Pruitt will still be the coach next season. If he has any notion of being here long term, is it not far more important to make sure you have your answer under center for 2021?
I think playing Harrison Bailey and going 2-8, it's easy to say that now. Oh, let's play him. But then if they go 2-8 and they play him, they're like, what the heck? 2-8, he was 5 stars. And then, you
Fire
can't
them
develop,
No, I agree. I agree with that. And here's the thing too. People act like this year doesn't count.
But
It counts
it does.
in recruiting.
Well, it does.
Put a class together.
It counts in number of wins for your program. It counts in number of wins for your starting quarterback or your head coach. Or
it counts.
Counting coaches keeping jobs.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we're gonna sprint through a couple more right quick. Volquest, who's responsible for the offensive line rotation? That's Will Friend. That's how that is handled there. Seth Coleman wants to know, weren't the worries about Middleton and Solomon opting out because of COVID? Was that the only reason, or was there issues with Jimmy Brumbaugh with those 2 guys? I don't think Middleton was ever going to opt out. Solomon, I think, gave it some serious consideration because of the COVID stuff. I don't think either one of them are going to walk away because of Jimmy Brumbaugh, Austin.
Correct. And Middleton missed time due to COVID.
Right.
Which is what got all the rumors, the grassy knoll rumors.
Got it all started. All right. Will Pruitt's overall handling of the quarterback position determine his fate as coach here? When you consider everything from recruiting, the quarterback coach, lack of development, it hasn't been good so far. Winky can't be on staff next year. Bottom line, Bailey or Salter will have to work out, or Pruitt will not survive. Agree. I'm not going to say I agree with that because I don't know what the transfer market looks like. What I will say is they got to find a quarterback who can play, and they've got to find an offensive identity. They got to determine what they're going to be, and they're going to go with that. Okay, Salter's a different type player than than JG or than Harrison Bailey. So at some point in time, you got to determine who you're going to be and what you're going to be. If you're going to be a play action pass Rob football team that it runs it aggressively, hard nosed between the tackles with a big old physical offensive line, then you're going to need a bigger running back, right? And you're going to need some receivers who can take the top off of it vertically down the field, and a quarterback who can throw it that way. If you're not going to be that, you're going to be zone read RPO type stuff, then you probably need a guy who can run around a little bit. So I think it starts with determining what you're going to be offensively.
Well, and I think too, go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, it's what Hubbard wrote after the game on Saturday against Kentucky. I mean, what is your identity? And then, get your personnel to fit it.
And I'm not going to agree with him on Winky because he's got nothing at the quarterback position. I mean, like, no, I'm not saying that, he's, Walsh, but I also am not going to say that he's a trash coach either. I mean, I think at the end of the day, he and Jim Chaney and Jeremy Pruitt have yet to sign their own kind of agreed upon quarterback, because Harrison Bailey was committed to, Jeremy. And at that point, Winky was not the quarterback's coach. He was the tight ends coach. And he committed to Jeremy 7 days after Tyson Helton left for Western Kentucky. And at that point, Helton had recruited Harrison for a year. And then, obviously same thing with Maurer the year before that. So, that triumvirate, their first quarterback that they recruited together was Caden Salter.
Yeah, I agree. I understand your point there. I will say this: you're getting paid money to develop who's on the roster. And what's on the roster hasn't gotten better, apparently, because we haven't seen Maurer. They don't have any confidence in JT Shrout. And Jerry Garantano has not played any better the last 6 quarters. Okay.
I understand
the same mistakes. So, I acknowledge what you're saying, that's not gotten their guy, but those guys have to get somewhat better and more functional, than where they are at this point in time.
Where they screwed up, and I know we got a couple minutes left. Where they screwed up was the original class cutting Adrian Martinez, or kind of not pursuing him like they should have, and taking JT Shrout. Not that Martinez is some world beater, okay? Don't misunderstand. But would he be better off? Would he be better on this current roster than JT Shrout? I say yes.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And they haven't been able to get in the transfer market and get a guy that they all agree upon too, because you had a situation where, okay, if you don't like what you have in your room and you knew that, go get a guy, and you didn't get anybody this summer to help you there as well, when there were some guys out there available in the quarterback transfer market. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Volquest.com podcast. Hey, a reminder, don't forget about our friends at Blue Water Climate Control. They're going to take care of you for any repair you need, any system upgrade you need. They're going to do the right repair the right way the first time. They got their warranty, they got financing, everything you need. Check them out at bluewaterclimatecontrol.com. Book your appointment there, or give them a buzz at 865-299-2290. That's Blue Water Climate Control. For Austin Price and Rob Lewis, I'm Brent Hubbs. Have a great Thursday, everybody.